All right, we're going to get the program started. Our first speaker, Mayor Ransom.
Morton is not Illinois. Illinois is frankly in awful financial shape, and many towns and villages in Illinois are in a lot of trouble. Craig Loudermilk and I serve on a couple of municipal planning organizations, and we deal with grants from the Department of Transportation and IDOT and so forth. And we actually have members who are seeking grants just to fix potholes. I mean, grants are typically for nice capital projects and so forth, but some cities are in such poor shape they can't even fix their roads. Morton's roads are in very good shape. Morton is in good shape. Morton is not Illinois. Did you write this down? I'm looking at the super. I once tried to get together an international association. There were so many firms in this area that are managed and owned by foreign nationals. I tried to form an association. I found over 100 firms like that just in the Tri-County area. They didn't really want to come to Morton in particular, or rather to Illinois. But they wanted to do business with Caterpillar. So the question is right away, where do you establish yourself? You want to do business with Caterpillar, you don't really want to be in Illinois. This is not a trick question. Morton is in really wonderful shape. And to expand on that, I've asked Craig Loudermilk, would you come up, Craig, to give you an idea of some of the projects that we're working on that make Morton a very special, standout community in Illinois.
Thank you. As Ron mentioned, my name's Craig Loudermilk, and I'm the Director of Public Works for the Village of Morton. I've lived here, actually, along with the mayor. We moved here about 35 years ago. Lived across the street from each other for 16 years. And the mayor often discusses, I'm not going to get into the Illinois stuff and all that. It's not my place, but the mayor often discusses why Morton is a special place. I too share his views on that. But like I said, maybe that's because we've lived across from each other. We've lived here the same amount of time. Or maybe it's our experience in public works that allows us to appreciate things that a lot of people expect and a lot of people take for granted. Bottom line is Morton is special. I believe it's why he and I both still reside here in Morton and why we're both working for the Village of Morton. Now, I'm not here to talk about he and I's past or Family Circle or Wallet Hub or any other publication that names us as the best place to raise a family. It's not my place. I'm here to discuss my perspective on something that makes Morton special and why Morton is different from a lot of other communities. In the end, I hope I give you another perspective on why Morton is different. Morton Public Works is a pretty good start. This is not a slight to any other organization or agency. There's a lot of great people in here doing great things, but I want to talk about Public Works today. A word that comes to mind when I think of Public Works is expect. Everyone just expects the water to come out when the faucet's turned on. Everyone expects the toilet to flush when the lever is pressed. Or everyone expects the lights to come on when the light switch is flicked. We've all become accustomed to the fact that public works should just work, period. And when it doesn't, or when there's a problem, it immediately becomes a crisis. We've seen that a lot recently, whether that's Ameren, Flint, Michigan, all over the news. I believe Morton Public Works has always been and continues to be the foundation as to why we are different. Current and past Village of Morton mayors, trustees have supported investment in public works. Trust me, I see it every single day. What my predecessor, Bob Ray, has done with the support of trustees in the past is pretty impressive. I don't mean maintenance like most communities, like Ron mentioned. There's a lot of people struggling to fix potholes. I mean capital improvement investments from money saved so that future generations don't have to fix the problems that we've created or others or we have allowed to happen. Capital investments so that when we're dealing with an issue, you already know that we are working towards a solution. This village has always had a vision. and has always been proactive in protecting its valuable assets, whether it's choosing to keep the largest municipal gas-owned company in Illinois so that all revenue can stay within the community, or establishing a stormwater utility over a decade ago in order to fund critical stormwater infrastructure, or investing in a long-term plan to disconnect our combined sewers. Let's face it, infrastructure declines or becomes obsolete to the point that it needs repaired or eventually replaced. It is also becoming increasingly more difficult for all of us, all communities, to keep up with the changing regulations. You don't have to look far to see communities that don't have this vision, and they don't have to look far for an example. This is why we are different, and it's something that we should all be proud of. You can never stop investing in public works infrastructure, or it will have long-lasting effects on the entire community, not just public works. If you look closely, it's in the news every day. But we don't have time today to discuss all the specific examples within public works. I'm very passionate about it, and I'd be glad to talk to you guys any day about public works. Nor would you want to listen to me more than 13 minutes today. Instead, I'm going to focus on something that affects every one of us daily and something that we often take for granted. It's also an area of public works where we're making some needed improvements and investing a lot of money in order to protect this valuable asset. Today, I'm going to talk about your public water supply. We currently treat an average of 2 million gallons per day at 3 treatment plants that flow through the distribution system to the customer. This will sometimes drop to 1 million gallons per day on low demand and up to 4 million gallons per day during peak demand. We have 8 wells that supply raw water to the distribution system from the San Cody Aquifer. We also have 3 water towers that each have a capacity of 500,000 gallons in order to pressurize the system for distribution of water and to provide emergency storage in case the town runs out of water. In most cases, this is in the event of a fire. We estimate that at any given time, there are 3 million gallons of treated water in the system. Each of these plants aerate, filter, soften, chlorinate the raw water. We add orically for distribution biofilm control. We add silicate for lead and copper control, and we add fluoride for dental health. All of this is done in order to provide a finished product that is safe to drink and complies with EPA regulations. There's a lot of work involved to provide safe, reliable water to every customer. I don't know if you can see the screen very well, but how many of you have thought lately more about your public water supply from the news? Whether that's Flint, Michigan, and their ongoing water crisis, whether that's Quincy, Illinois Veterans Home and their outbreak of Legionnaire's disease, or Galesburg, Illinois as of recent and their lead concerns. I would hope that most of you would say yes. While we appreciate your trust, these are concerning issues for all of us that rely on a public water supply. I do think it's only a matter of time before the next community is in the news. I'm not going to lie, I lose sleep when public water supplies are in the news because we all operate under the same regulations that change daily. We are all required to comply with the Safe Water Drinking Act, which is a federal law to protect public water supplies. Our standards are the same, our treatment processes are similar, and our water sources are required to be protected. I truly believe that what makes us different is the management of our finances and the continued investment in public works. I want to share just a couple quotes from these recent crises that I think paint the picture of the issues that arise when financial constraints alter decision makers' priorities, which ultimately affect the public's health. And eventually one community's crisis leads to another. In regard to Flint, and I won't bore you with all this, you guys have probably been watching this, but I just picked out a few here that kind of hit home for me and what we do every day at Morton Public Works. In Flint, Governor Snyder appointed an emergency financial manager to handle Flint. According to State Congressman Dan Kildee, the new manager assigned, in quotes, simply to do one thing and one thing only, and that's cut the budget at all costs. One option was to stop paying Detroit for Lake Huron water and start using Flint River water. There are a lot of issues and potential corruption with this crisis, but the bottom line is they had to cut the budget. And the easiest thing to do was to cut critical public works. In a city with rampant poverty and struggling finances, drastic decisions made by leaders will have a long-lasting effect on a community. In regard to Quincy, what some of you may not be as familiar with, I have a quote here. In an unusual admission from Veterans Affairs Director Erica Jeffries concerning the Veterans Home Campus in Quincy, some of the 48 buildings on 200 acres are more than a century old and have antiquated plumbing, fertile fixtures for the waterborne Legionella bacteria. 12 people died and 54 were hospitalized in this case. I think the thing with that statement was I appreciated the honesty. At least they admitted that they ignored the aging infrastructure for decades. Unlike Morton, a lot of other communities are in this position. Galesburg, which is in the news a lot lately due to its lead, there was a quote here. I'll keep some of the names out of this, but the mayor said last Monday in response to the Congresswoman inquiries, I am certain that the Congresswoman is convinced that she's acting on behalf of us here. We are not Flint, Michigan. This is an example of one crisis leading to another. While Galesburg is concerning, it's definitely not Flint. Galesburg adds an anti-corrosion agent, just like Morton, and didn't change their raw water source, just like we did. According to an analysis of EPA data, Galesburg is one of nearly 1,400 water systems serving 3.6 million Americans that exceeded federal lead standards at least once between 2013 and 15. Thankfully, Morton lead results are well below the action levels established by the EPA. In a statement, the EPA said events in Flint and elsewhere have raised questions about how the lead rule has been implemented. This is where the changing regulations are going to come. The agency is considering changes to the rule and urging state water regulators in the meantime to improve lead monitoring. We've seen this as of late. They've doubled our samples, and we now do it yearly instead of bi-yearly. But the ultimate solution is expensive, especially in a state that doesn't have money. It will take billions of dollars to replace millions of miles of lead service lines throughout the country. Those are the lines that connect the water mains to the homes, to schools, to businesses, and are remnants from a time when scientists didn't understand the dangers caused by lead. So why? Why do all these crises appear, and why are they so surprising? All I can think is that people get comfortable when everything is going smooth, and we effectively just wait for the next crisis. And communities and governments get desperate when they are financially strapped, and focus is shifted to the now, and they forget that decisions made now can affect future generations. Again, Morton is different. Public Works has a lot of expenses, but also generates revenue. This revenue has been and has to continue to be reinvested into public works or saved for future capital expenditures so that we are not the next Flint or the next Quincy. The following is some information about our distribution system and an example of the investment that Morton has made in the water department. Again, another area where we are different. The Village of Morton, hopefully everybody can see this. The Village of Morton currently maintains 103 miles of village-owned water main. We maintain 1,168 village-owned distribution valves and 842 village-owned fire hydrants. I won't get into all the details. As far as water main by material, most of our water main out there is fairly new, but it's ductile iron, cast iron. The remaining is high-density polyethylene, AC transite, and PVC. Water main by size, most of ours is 6 to 8 inches. The negative to this, though, is, and I think this is what communities are going to start dealing with in the future, is we're a unique size here in Morton. We have to provide larger water mains so that we can protect in the event of a fire, but fire flow requirements are very tough to deal with. When that goes up, domestic is a concern as far as water quality. Sometimes we have too much water in the system, so water quality becomes a concern. As far as water main replacement, and this really paints the picture of how proactive the village has been, 65% of the total system is 40 years or newer. Over the past 35 years, the Village of Morton has replaced over 37 miles of water main. That's not new water main in new subdivisions. And in 2003, that was the start of our water main. Many of you probably don't realize this, but we started replacing by boring with high-density polyethylene. Most communities do not do this. This saved us a tremendous amount of cost, and then having all the damage of restoration to take care of after. Some other information, all the new and replaced services over the 15 years are HDPE. Most remaining services are copper, that's both village owned and customer owned, and there are no known lead services in the system, both village owned and customer owned. That information comes from the superintendents that have been here for 30, 40 years that I've communicated with, and some of the data. Sometimes you don't know that. That's the concern with other communities, is we don't know what's out there. But from the information we have from our people, there are known lead services in the village. Now on to some projects. As many of you know, there have been changes in our water recently. I'm sure I've received a couple complaints, or my superintendent has, for the changing water, whether that's the smell from the chlorine, or maybe water quality changes. Once again, we have been and continue to be proactive in addressing the changes required by the EPA. While we are different from other communities, we are still not immune from facing similar problems. The current issue facing our public works, our public water supply, are required changes as a result of a violation issued by the EPA on November 18, 2015 for coliform bacteria and failure to provide adequate chlorination in all parts of the distribution system. This was after the 2 boil orders that most of you probably remember in 2014. Since then, we've made a lot of changes in order to address the biofilm and water age concerns. But this new violation is different. This new violation required a compliance commitment agreement with the EPA, where we have to undertake specific actions within a specified time period. We have determined that the cause of the violation was a combination of issues, but most importantly, the current water treatment process at all 3 plants results in variable effluent flows and water quality, which complicates the chlorination process and results in an unstable chlorine residual. This has contributed to the biofilm growth and subsequently chlorine demand within the system. Other things that are affecting this issue is lower demand from conservation and an improved system with less unaccounted for water. As I said before, we have about 3 million gallons of water at any one time in the system. When we use less water, water age goes up. However, I'm excited to inform you that as of yesterday, we just finalized plans and they are out for bid for this project, which I just put the cover sheet on here. And ultimately, it'll go in front of the board here in about a month, and hopefully start construction by the end of May. It's a picture of both water plants, and some of the major items that we'll be working on is installation of ammonia analyzers at all the plants. Ammonia in the raw water is probably the thing that we're fighting the most. We're going to upgrade the chlorine feed equipment for capacity in order to flow pace. And then we're also going to work on mixing the chemicals. Right now they come out at different mixtures, so hopefully that'll improve things. And ultimately my hope is that you guys will notice some consistency at your homes when we're finalized with this project. As far as enough about water, I'd like to share a couple other projects that we're working on now. This is a very large project that we're working on. I think Bill Opperly's in the room. This is Opperly Construction doing this work. This is another EPA mandated project in order to provide disinfection to the water before it goes in the creek. We had an exemption for, I think, decades, but this year was the year we finally had to make that upgrade. So this was about $1.9 million, and this is at Broadway and 4th. This is the first tank, and this was a picture just, I think it was Friday, so you can see how big this tank is. And this one's rated, this is for our storm overflow, so it's rated at 40 million gallons a day, and we'll be treating this with peracetic acid instead of chlorine. And another big project, which I won't go into details. I think Tom Wall's here from Cullinan. This is another big project, Detroit Avenue. I didn't drive by there. I don't know if it's closed yet, but this week it's going to be closed between Jefferson and Jackson. And this is part of a $3.7 million job to mainly improve the intersection, but it also widened the road from 5 lanes just past where BSI and Napa are. So this will be a nice improvement. And about $2 million of that project is coming from federal dollars. Another project, I don't know if it's the size of the other ones, but kind of an exciting one that we've been working on for quite some time is we'll have a new bulk water dispensing station at our facility at 450 Detroit. And this will be open to the public and contractors where they can use credit card or come into our office and get started with that. This will be a nice thing. We want to keep everybody off our hydrants. Nobody should be on our hydrants. If people see people on our hydrants, they should notify us. So hopefully this will give contractors and people an opportunity to get water and not give them that feeling like there's no other option. And then on to just some regular road projects this year. A big one is Illinois Street. These are out for bid as of yesterday too. Illinois from Jefferson to Sunset. This will be new sidewalk, new curbs, new pavement, sanitary sewers, sump drain lines. This will be a nice improvement. The next one is 7th Street in this area of town. And I could go into this detail later. I love talking about this. This is a street that we lost. We tried to just Band-Aid it together, but now it's time. It's kind of met. I don't think we can keep up with the pavement anymore. So this will get new sanitary sewer, new storm, new curb and gutter, new pavement. Jefferson Street in Nebraska in front of Lincoln School. We're working on a project to improve the sidewalks and curbs from Nebraska and Ohio. So this project's also out for bid. And then lastly, I'd like to conclude with a quote that summarizes our mission at Morton Public Works, and again can only be realized with a continued investment in our infrastructure. And that's our success is a crisis that never happens. Thank you for listening. And next, I would like to introduce Dr. Lindsay Hall.
All right, first of all, I'm glad to be here as always. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I had to really kind of narrow down what to talk about. There's so many good things going on. And as we all know, we could spend a lot of time talking about the state of Illinois. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about school finance because there's a lot of that information in the news right now. But before I get started, I want to introduce the members of the District 709 Board of Education who are able to be with us this morning, pretty much sitting all right here at this table. Mr. Clint Heinold, Mr. Tom Neely, Mr. Jeff Schmidgall, Mrs. Kelly Scarf, our President of the Board of Education, Mrs. Michelle Bernier, and Mr. Sean Bill is in the audience over here. And Dr. Shab Beatty, of course, is another member of the board who couldn't be here this morning, but want to thank everybody who could come. We're going to talk a little bit and start off with a construction update. We wanted everybody to know where we're going with the construction that's related to the bond issue that passed. Then I want to talk a little bit about school finance and some budget issues that impact us. Then we're going to talk a little bit about an event that we have coming up, a big event with the schools in August, and then I want to end by sharing some positive news. I just want to say that there, thankfully, is an endless stream of positive news from the Morton schools, so many good things that are happening. All right, so to give here's an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to start off with a construction update. We obviously passed a referendum in March. We're very happy about that because those were needs that were identified as urgent by our Board of Education. And so we're going to be dividing those projects into 3 separate projects. And the first is going to be work at the junior high and the high school, which will start this summer. Then I'm going to tackle the additions of the 3 elementary buildings and then the windows at Jefferson Elementary. So this summer, and we're going to be starting on this as soon as we can, we're going to be remodeling the band rooms, the orchestra and choir area at the junior high, and also 3 other rooms at the junior high. Our bid opening is this Thursday afternoon. Our bid approval by the Board of Education will be next Tuesday evening, May 3rd. We want to start as soon as we can when the students and staff are out of the buildings. This is work that really needs to be done when the buildings are pretty much vacated. And then we need to have that work done when we start school on August 10th. So that's going to be the first stage, and we've really been moving quickly on that. The next stage of this are elementary additions at Letty Brown, Grundy, and Lincoln. And we're going to be adding gymnasiums at all 3 of those schools, as well as restrooms, and then a differing amount of classrooms. This is going to be an area of the building which is accessible to the public in the evening, and then we can close down and lock down the rest of the building. So we do see these gymnasiums as being a big part of the community usage. We are very short on gym space right now with our current facilities, and so we want to make those available to the public and the Park District and other users who might be out there. Tentative schedule for that is, this is ambitious, but we've got some great people working on this, going out for bid in early July, hopefully bid approval in early August, and hopefully breaking ground in late August. Not sure that it's likely these additions will not be ready for the 16-17 school year, but we hope to be in those in the fall of 2017. The window replacement at Jefferson Elementary, summer of 2017, we might need to divide that into 2 parts. It's a very, very big project, but this is, I don't want to call it lower priority, it just happens to be the project that is further off into the future. And so we'll be working on that once we get the other 2 projects started. And then we also have some other work that's going to be going on this summer, which is pretty significant. This is not work that was part of the bond issue. It's just been work that is on our to-do list, much like Craig's to-do list. With Public Works, we have ongoing continual investment in our school buildings so that they're kept safe and so that we keep up with the maintenance that's needed. We're going to be renovating some restrooms at Jefferson Elementary, as well as replacing the parking lot at Morton High School and the blacktop at Grundy Elementary. So we're going to get started on those fairly quickly as well. Okay, so this might be the more negative part of the presentation. I certainly don't want it to come off that way, but we do have a reality in the state of Illinois that's going on right now. There's some conditions that really aren't so great, but I want to talk a little bit about how that looks for the Morton schools and maybe just give a brief overview of school finance and how it relates to what we do here in District 709. For District 709, we get actually very little money from the state of Illinois and from the federal government. It is the bulk of our funding that comes from local property tax revenue, close to 90%, as you can see, well above 80%. So we are very unreliant or non-reliant. I don't want to make it sound like we don't need the money, but we really don't get much from the state of Illinois, and also very few federal dollars that help to support special education, Title I, the school lunch program coming from the federal government. So when we get money from the state of Illinois, and I'm just going to go through this very quickly, it's about the driest topic you could possibly talk about, at least in my opinion. Some people really love it. I've got a business manager who, this is her job, and she relishes the spreadsheets and the dollars and all the math. So thankfully, there's someone, there are people that love to work in this. But when we receive money from the state of Illinois, it comes in 2 different categories. It comes in general state aid, and it comes in what are called mandated categoricals. When you hear talk in the news very recently about revamping the state funding formula, and there's been a lot of news about that lately, what's being talked about is general state aid, and that's often referred to as GSA. This is a completely different category of money. Mandated categoricals support pretty much transportation and special education. For GSA, we get 22 payments throughout the school year. There was one time when that was 24 payments. And back in about, I believe it was 2009, it was in that area of time, schools lost 2 payments from the state. It used to be 24 payments. We've never gotten those back. So now the norm is just 22 payments. And I just want to share with you that back in 98, 99, we were getting, the Morton schools, $3.5 million in state aid. We are now down to just a little over $1 million. So that portion of our revenue stream is shrinking, while the portion that local property taxpayers takes on has consistently grown. With mandated categoricals, we should be receiving 4 payments. We typically get only 3. And so what we've gone to is projecting our budget with just 3 payments and not counting on that 4th payment. So why do the Morton schools get so little money from the state? Because what you're hearing in the news is that without a state budget, and without a budget for next year, that there's going to be schools that won't be able to open because they're not going to get their state aid. Well, we fall into category 2. And if you're in category 1 and you are on the foundation formula, which is most schools in the state, then the idea there is that you're going to get a little over $6,000 per student. Okay? We're not getting that in Morton because we're on the alternate formula. And we're on the alternate formula of general state aid because we have a very wealthy and growing EAV, and we have a low proportion of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And we also have very good attendance in terms of the average daily attendance of our students is very high. All of these factors are factored in, and I want to just emphasize that I'm giving everyone the 50,000-foot view here, that there's a lot more detail than this. But because we're on the alternate formula, the Morton School District really only receives between $350 and $400 per student. So when we talk about the amount of state aid that we receive, we're really receiving a very low amount, and that's because we are on this alternate formula. And then finally, it's only the wealthiest of the school districts, most of them located up on the North Shore, up in Chicago, the north suburbs. It's the wealthiest of school districts that are on what we call the flat grant formula. That's a very small proportion of school districts. So out of 900 school districts in the state, approximately 177 are in the category that Morton falls into, which is being on that alternate formula. So I gotta talk a little bit about the state of Illinois, because even though Morton is not very dependent on state aid, and even though we've got incredibly wonderful economic conditions going on here, that are very favorable for the village, for us, the library, the park district, for so many different entities, we're not totally immune to what's happening in our state. We can't be. And so while we can say that Morton is not Illinois, I agree with that. At the same time, we can't really totally ignore everything that's going on out there. So what's been in the news lately is the revising of the general state aid formula. And there was a lot of news last week because Governor Rauner released his ideas for that. And those were some interesting ideas, and it actually resulted in the Morton schools getting more money. I don't personally really think that that plan is going to come to fruition. It's a very partisan issue, as you might imagine. Everything in Springfield seems to be right now. But we also have Senator Andy Menard, who's a Democrat from down south, and he has been a champion for a couple of years of revamping the state funding formula. So he has his idea. I'm not sure that idea is going to go very far either. And so somewhere in there, the idea is to revamp a formula that is not equitable for students across the state. It's not particularly fair to the children of the state. And the fact that in explaining how these different formulas work, you can see that the discrepancies only underscore that there's a need to revamp these formulas somehow. It's just an incredibly long and very political process. And when you wrap it up into all of the other budget issues that are going on with the state, I really don't know if this problem is going to be solved. So in the meantime, the K-12 education budget was approved for this fiscal year, for FY16. And so that's why schools have gotten their money this year. But the fear is now that the K-12 education budget might not be approved for FY17. And so when you are hearing news about schools not being able to open their doors in the fall, those are schools that are heavily reliant on lots of money from the state, and they literally might not be able to pay their bills. Morton is not in that situation. The board and I have talked about that. We'll be opening our doors in the fall. However, you have to ask the question, if there are other schools, neighboring districts that cannot open, that very well could have an impact on us in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what it looks like. Either way, this is a problem that needs to be solved, and soon. And then finally, the latest news that we got, not so good news, was that the corporate personal property replacement tax was overpaid for the last couple of years. The state wants their money back. touch of irony on that, but that's okay. I understand that. They made a mistake. They want their money back. That impacts lots and lots of municipalities, not just school districts. So that piece of information is out there as well. So what's happening locally? Let's get back to Morton and let's get back to some really good news. What's happening locally, obviously a very low reliance on state funding. We have an annual growing EAV in our school district, and I'm going to show you some numbers on the next slide. That is a school superintendent's and a Board of Education's dream come true, is to have a growing EAV and lots of new growth. We also have increasing enrollment in our schools, and it's growing at a very steady, manageable rate, although we did identify those urgent needs and the need for the bond issue and building on and remodeling all 6 of our buildings. We have a dropping tax rate. If you got your tax bill yesterday, I feel like I always make this speech the day after people get their tax bills. Maybe we could schedule this on a different day. So hopefully you saw that. Your tax rate went down. That's because our EAV is growing. We can spread out the needed amount of money around a greater number of people. I want to emphasize, I'm not saying that your taxes went down, your tax rate went down. So this is what our EAV has done. I skipped over some years here, but if you look back to 2007, it was just under 400 million. And for the levy that we did for this year, we were well over 550 million at 556 million. And over the last 3 years, we've had over $9 million in new growth. That is wonderful. That's wonderful for the community, for the schools. We've got that growth. It contributes to the tax base in a very positive way. And we are able to, this is a huge factor in why we can remain healthy in the Morton schools financially. So I want to talk a little bit about our first annual State of the Schools community event. If everybody today could mark their calendar, it's going to be Thursday, August 30th. We're very excited about this new event. This is not only the school district, but we look at it as interacting with our community. And it's going to be a community dinner over which we can listen, learn, and engage. It's going to be at Morton High School. Community engagement is a larger and larger part of what we do every day. Listening to all of you, listening to our voters, our grandparents, our parents, people who have no connection to the schools. And this is going to provide an opportunity to invite community members in, to interact with us, provide feedback, and also to learn more about the school district and some of our challenges. We're going to have breakout sessions. We're going to have students there. We want our community talking with our students and hearing firsthand about the great things that are going on in the school. So this is a Thursday evening. Put it on your calendar now, and we want to see as many people there as possible. So we'll be getting information out about that over the summer. And finally, I'm going to end on some very positive news. I could do an entire presentation on positive news right now. You know, we are back-to-back state champions with girls basketball. Same thing with golf. Our bass fishing team is doing great. So those are just a couple of examples. Grandparents' Day is this Friday at the junior high. That's always a huge event. But some of really fantastic news that we just got from U.S. News and World Report is that our high school was ranked a silver level high school nationally. And this is based upon a college readiness factor that's calculated, and it's measured through the percent of students taking and passing advanced placement exams. This is the first time that we have risen from bronze to silver. It's a very significant jump. There's only about 11% of high schools nationally that are in the silver level. You can see that it's only about 3% at the gold level. But 4 years ago, when I started here, we only had one advanced placement class at Morton High School. And hats off to Marjorie Johnson, the principal at the high school, and her staff. We have implemented now, I believe, we'll be offering 8 AP classes starting in the fall. Our students are taking those. We are giving in the next couple of weeks, there will be 102 AP tests that will be taken by our students. And this is really an indication of the academic rigor and college readiness. So I want to close on one other piece of really fantastic news. Last night, one of our senior students at Morton High School, Elizabeth Grimm, she won Darren LaHood's Congressional Art Show at the Peoria Public Library. I also just want to say, about 3 years ago, we did not have an instructional during the day art program at Morton Junior High and High School. And in just a couple of very short years, that program has grown. Clearly, we're putting out some very talented artists. I thank the Board of Education for supporting the arts in so many ways, but this is a true accomplishment. Congratulations to Elizabeth. Her artwork will be displayed in Washington, D.C., somewhere in the Capitol, I'm not exactly sure where, for a year, and really just amazing news. So I could go on and on. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to serve you as the superintendent of schools. It's a joy to work here and an honor. There are truly just incredible things going on here, and that's because of all of you in this room supporting the schools. So thank you, and I'm going to hand the microphone off now to Alyssa Williams, our new director of the Morton Public Library. Just want to say that this young lady started her job under extremely difficult circumstances with the act of workplace violence back in October, and just navigated that whole thing beautifully. So we're very fortunate to have her here. So, Alyssa.
Yes, thank you for having me here today. It has been quite the exciting year since I became library director last June. I'd like to recognize the members of the library board who are here with us today: Carol Jankowski, Dennis Ewald, and Jeff Keach. I have had a tremendously supportive board this past year. And today I just want to share with you a few things that we have done in the past year, what the future looks like for the Morton Library, and how our summer reading program benefits our community. I just, echoing what Dr. Hall said, I feel so fortunate to work in this community where the library receives so much community support. And it is thanks to some of that support that we were able to complete a major project last summer, Hannah's Reading Garden. This project was made possible through a generous donation from Dan and Lynn Walters, honoring their granddaughter Hannah, who was 6 years old when she passed away. She loved the outdoors and reading, according to her mother, so this garden honors her. And it also serves as a safe space for us to offer our popular Friday programs during our summer reading program. It's at the back of the library. We have a sunshade that will be going up here next month. And it also provides a great place to sit and enjoy a beautiful spring day. We have benches and tables back there, and we look forward to hosting more events there this summer. We'll also be making more improvements to the library property this spring. Through more generous private donations, the library board purchased the Eternal Flame sculpture, which was part of the Peoria Sculpture Walk and was actually the winners of the People's Choice Award. And it was crafted by Matt Matheny, who is a Morton resident. So we're bringing it back to Morton, which is a nice touch. And Mr. Matheny is also crafting for us outdoor chess tables that will honor Mr. James Vernon and his act of heroic bravery at the library this past fall. So those will be added kind of towards the front of the library and will be a great way to honor Mr. Vernon and the thousands of children in the community he's taught to play chess. So we've also improved our services in the past year. We now have Blu-ray DVDs available for checkout. We offer a fax service for the public, and we have a new monthly email newsletter where we send out information about our upcoming programs and activities. And if you don't already get that in your email box each month, you can subscribe at mortonlibrary.org. We still send out a print newsletter quarterly to everyone, so that won't be going away anytime soon. But we do offer a lot of variety of programs throughout the year, and this is a great way for people to keep up to date. So what's going to happen to the libraries? Sometimes people ask me, why do we still need libraries in this age of the internet? Well, it's truly an exciting time at the library, and since January, the library board, community, as well as some staff members have started working on a long-range plan for the library. And in April, the library board approved our new mission statement. The mission of the Morton Public Library is to actively connect people to books, resources, and technology, and provide opportunities for learning, collaboration, and enjoyment. We are also, through this plan, we have come up with 4 priorities of service. So that includes community engagement, collaboration with the schools, facilities improvement, and technology. Now we're still working on the plan. Nothing has been, aside from the new mission vision statement, nothing has been approved by the board. So what I'm sharing in the next slide are just ideas that we're exploring. So what might these things look like? for the library and the community? Well, under our goal of community engagement, we want to get books in the hands of as many people as possible. And sometimes it's not possible for people to come to the library. So perhaps in a couple of years, you'll see a pedal bike roaming around the streets of Morton. We'll visit Dairy Queen on a Thursday night when people are standing in line and check books out to them. Little free libraries are kind of a big trend as well. They're free book exchanges, encouraging you to take a book, leave a book. We're talking to the Park District about putting some of those on park property. Big Read is a National Endowment for the Arts grant program, but it's a community reading program where everyone reads the same book. So that's another idea for community engagement. We have facilities improvements to do, but we want to continue to make the library a destination for families. We currently have lots of toddler play spaces, but we don't have anything for babies, so we could have a baby play space. And more importantly, we're thinking big. What if every school child in District 709 had access to a library card? Currently, the school district boundaries don't align with the library district boundaries, and so those children who are not in the school district have to pay for a library card because they're not paying on their property taxes. So why is having a library card so important for a child? Well, we're gearing up for one of our biggest programs of the summer, summer reading. And I just want to share a little bit about why we do summer reading. Aside from the fact it's lots of fun and we have lots of kids coming in and we do lots of programs, the real reason we do it is because we're trying to help prevent summer slide. And summer slide is the learning loss a child experiences when they do not engage in educational activities during the summer. National research from Dominican University finds that students who participate in public library summer reading programs score higher on reading achievement tests at the beginning of the next school year than those who do not participate. So here's a demo of how summer slide works. So we have green and blue student who start kindergarten with, we're going to assume, the same amount of skills. And because we have excellent schools, they receive the same amount of instruction and learning during the year. But then summer comes. Blue, they don't participate in summer reading. Green does. So blue starts first grade a little behind, but again, gains the same amount of skills and instruction. But again, summer comes, blue doesn't read. Second grade, summer. So we know through the research that the effects of summer slide are cumulative. And so this trend continues with blue becoming farther and farther behind green, so that by the time they get to sixth grade, blue is possibly reading at least 2 levels behind green. So what does this mean? Well, it means for blue that even if they excel at science or math or art, they could be struggling with their homework because it's written at a 6th grade reading level. It means a teacher is possibly having to spend more time offering remedial instruction for blue because they have to make up for the skills lost during the summer. So let's put this into some dollars. We know from the school district's annual report that it costs $9,745 to educate a child in Morton. So research shows it takes 2 out of 10 months to teach the skills that were lost due to summer slide. And we're only talking about one subject, reading, which does impact most subjects, but just one. So we come up with an average of $643 per child to reteach the cost, or to reteach skills lost. So last summer, we had 664 elementary school students who completed the library's summer reading program. We had about 800 who registered, but we had 664 who completed, which means they read at least 10 books. And research shows you need to read 6 books to maintain your skills, which means the value of our summer reading program to the community is $427,000. And the fun the kids have, that's priceless. So we're really excited about engaging our families in summer reading this year. And we will be offering for the first time a summer reading program for adults. So we know kids do better and are more inclined to read during the summer if they have a reading role model. So we're trying to encourage families and parents to engage with their children in reading. And why shouldn't adults get prizes too? So we have summer reading this year for all ages. It starts as soon as school gets out, which is a little earlier than we expected this year, thanks to no snow. But I invite you to come down to the library. It's really an exciting time. If you haven't come and seen Hannah's Reading Garden, please come. You can eat lunch at our picnic table that's down there, or come and sign up for summer reading. So Thank you for your time today. This is just a great community, and I'm happy to introduce Jill Dickerson, who is our Director of Parks and Rec.
So the first thing I would like to talk about is one of the parks that we've been putting a lot of resources into, Westwood Park. Has anybody been out to the new Fine Arts Pavilion? The summer concerts, the movies, all the things we've been doing out there. The Fine Arts Pavilion that was built in conjunction with the Morton Fine Arts Association, as well as the Morton Tourism Association, who does a lot of the volunteer coordinating out there, has been an awesome success. It's been really cool to see, and a facility this size and this quality for our community is just awesome. We've been seeing great numbers for the concerts when the weather cooperates with us, but one of the things that I noticed when I came here was the fact that who comes out to it. We've got an elderly population that definitely enjoys coming out, and we've got a lot of families with young children that really want to come out, and they have no way to access the facility. So last year we worked on getting accessibility issues figured out here, which included sidewalks, and this year we've added some vehicular entrances for some of our acts to be able to get to. Some of the work that we did not only beautified the park, but like I said, also made it accessible for people with wheelchairs, strollers, walkers, basically the people who are using this facility. We've also been working a lot on just kind of beautifying that park. So we had some older playground equipment that we're removing and putting in some new things there. But as you can see, we've had some great crowds. We didn't get a lot of cooperation with the weather last year. I think we had to cancel 3 or 4 of the concerts that were supposed to be out there. We moved upstairs here, and when people are looking forward to seeing a concert outside, it's kind of tough to tell them, well, come into the auditorium and let's do that. So anyway, we're really looking forward to this summer. I know we have a great lineup as well this year, and you can see some of the accessible things that we've covered there. The really cool thing about that facility is the fact that the concession stand that was built there, nonprofits from the community actually get to, Susan Piles does a great job coordinating with a lot of the nonprofits from the community, brings them in, lets them run concessions, and actually fundraise for their organizations by running concessions at the events, which is very cool. And I think that's a unique thing that we have. The next park that we've really been focusing on is Westwood Park. We've been working with this very closely with the school district on this project, as well as Morton Community Bank and the Morton Girls Softball Association. Starting about 2.5 years ago, we restructured an entire parking lot. We moved a pond, moved the parking lot, moved a playground, and began to build a softball stadium field that is finally very close to being ready to use. And one of the things you'll see is a theme throughout all of my slides here, and most of my topics that I talk about is partnerships. And these projects are things that we would never be able to do on our own. And if we were to try to do them on their own, they wouldn't be nearly the quality that they end up being. But this is one of those perfect examples. The softball field that we're going to end up with is going to be a world-class facility that the high school girls are going to get to use. All of the girls of the community are going to get to use during the summer season. It's going to be a huge benefit to that entire program. So we also ended up with some other nice things by restructuring the pond. That pond hadn't been worked on in about 40 years. So we were able to completely drain the whole thing, restock it with fish. So we're planning on doing some fishing events, which will be fun. We restocked it last year, and luckily we had a mild winter this year and didn't have a fish kill, so everything is looking good there. And if anybody hasn't noticed, we also keep all of the geese out of everybody else's yards because we do host the traveling population of geese for the entire state of Illinois at our park. If anybody wants to take the kids out to see baby geese, there are 2 families. They are super cute. Don't get too close. The geese will chase you, I promise. So, we had a lady come in the office the other day, and her daughter, she had a little daughter with her, and she was in tears. And the goose had pecked her in the forehead. And I was like, well, what were you doing? And she's like, well, trying to see the nest. We wanted to see the eggs. And I was like, let's not do that. Maybe we'll look at pictures. So with this project that we're working on here, we've also added a lot of accessibility, which is great. again, having great facilities is one thing, but having them be accessible is another thing. So that's something that we've worked on at all of our parks. Westwood Park, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, we've worked with the Morton Youth Baseball Association as well to make those fields accessible. You know, yeah, we're definitely talking about ADA types of things with a wheelchair or with a walker, but you know, we've got so many parents out there with young children and strollers, and that's just those are our target populations, and that's who we really want to get out there. So here's some pictures of the construction. We did add a new batting cage as well for the girls softball, but it's getting so close and it looks beautiful. If anybody wants to swing out there and take a look, I think we're looking at May 12th. Hopefully we're still on target for that. Again, Bill Opperly, if anybody has questions about that, you can talk to Bill back there. They've been doing an outstanding job though, and the facility looks beautiful. It's going to be a great thing for us. All right, so on to Westwood Park. Westwood Park's the park out on Veterans where we have the baseball fields. Again, I'll just touch on this very briefly, but we did add another new baseball field out there last year. We've also made some major improvements. We've been working with Kip Toffer from here in the community who designed our second disc golf course. And this disc golf course has been widely accepted as one of the best disc golf courses in Illinois. We had the largest, let me get this right, the largest purse payout of a disc golf tournament. Nate Heinold actually works with the Ledgestone Open and was hosted at, I think it was 6 courses in the area, but the 2 home courses for it, basically the Tournament Central was located at Megiddo, which is out at Westwood Park, and then Northwood Disc Golf Course as well at Northwood Park. And everything was hosted at Ashland House last year, so it really brought in about 900 disc golfers. The hotels were full, the restaurants were full. It was something very cool for us to do. And we were featured on ESPN SportsCenter for the whole weekend as the #1 highlight of the weekend. We had a professional disc golfer hit a hole-in-one on this course for that tournament, so it was pretty cool. But that tournament paid out, it was over $250,000 of money to the players. It was a pretty big deal, and it's supposed to be even bigger this year, so that'll be coming up. We also do our Kids Money Madness, which if you haven't seen, you need to go check out. We work with Matt Parker from Parker Fabrication on that. He and his wife basically organized the majority of that program, and it is cool. I think they're expecting a couple thousand kids out there this year. And we basically tear up a whole park and then repair it every year as we get ready for fall. But it's pretty cool, and if you haven't seen it, it's something definitely worth seeing. All right. Okay, last couple things to talk about before I get to this. How many of you had kids, and when you had kids growing up, you had to wait in line outside of the Park District office to get registered for your programs? Anybody remember having to do that? Right, the line would be like, you'd stand out there for 2 hours before the office opened, and sometimes it would be cold, sometimes it would be raining, all that kind of stuff. A year ago, we started online registration, and it's been a very successful thing for us. In fact, and this is how quickly people embrace the new technology. 92% of our registrations were online last year, the first year. So we went from dealing for about a week with nonstop traffic in and out the door, which also our hours, it's difficult for people who have a job, both parents work to get in and do those things, down to 92% of people online. Registration went live at midnight, not last night, but the night before. I logged on at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we already had classes that were full. So people are actually sitting up instead of standing in line outside the office, right? People are in their basement, like half falling asleep. I'm picturing them sitting there in their, we'll say, nightgown. I'm gonna hope it's in their nightgown, sitting there on the computer waiting. And as soon as midnight hits, they're clicking on programs. It's pretty cool though, 3 o'clock to have that many programs filling up. So everybody knows December we had that huge ice storm. That was the week between Christmas and New Year's. We had extensive damage at 2 of our parks, Northwood and Oakwood. Both got hit very hard. We lost a lot of big, mature trees, old trees, beautiful trees, and a couple of them decided to take it out on our playground equipment out there. So we're getting new playground equipment. at Oakwood Park, as well as we did the cleanup for the village. So we allowed everybody to bring all of their storm debris out there and worked on that it took our guys about 3 weeks to get everything cleaned up. We ended up saving a bunch of money ourselves, I guess, if you think about it, because now we won't have to buy mulch for a year. We ended up with plenty of that. A list of our events, we're short on time, so I'm not going to run through these, but we do have a number of things coming up this year that are new. One of the big things, we have been working with the school district on their tennis facility at the high school as well. And the Heart of Illinois it used to be called the Senior Olympics, it's now called the 50-plus Games. And I've got a bunch of flyers up here. Right, it sounds so much better, yeah, 50-plus games. But it's actually pretty cool. We get a lot of people who are very competitive in every age group that there is. We separate them by 5 years, so I believe it's 50 through 54 and then 55 through 59. But we had a gentleman last year who was 96 years old doing the swimming events, and it was pretty impressive. But this is something that we do in conjunction. Again, partnerships is what we do at the Park District. We work with the Peoria Park District, the Washington Park District, the Chillicothe Park District, Fond du Lac, Pekin. All of us get together to offer this event each year. And it's something, again, each one of our park districts, if we were to do it on our own, it would be very expensive for us to do on our own. We'd also have a fraction of the amount of participants that we have. But this year, due to the new tennis facility, very cool. We're going to be featured for that. We're going to be hosting the 50-plus games tennis portion at the tennis complex, which would be awesome. And the varsity tennis coach has volunteered to come and help out with that and bring his girls team out to volunteer for it. So it should be a really cool event. And if anybody would like to see those, I brought those. I also brought a bunch of the program guides that we have, but those are available online. So we're really looking at cutting down on printing those over the next couple of years. All right, the last thing I've got, if I can make it work, is a few of our upcoming projects. And I'm not going to talk in depth about the budget issues with the state. I think that's been covered pretty well today. But one of the specific programs that's available to park districts and parks and rec departments is called the OSLAD grant, and it's an Open Space and Land Development Act grant. And it's what park districts and parks department use to do almost all of their capital projects across the state. The very unique thing about this grant program is that agencies from the northeast corner to the northwest corner to the southeast corner of the state, it feels like every district has been impacted by this program, and that funding was completely shut off a year and a half ago. In addition, there were people who had projects that had been approved that got that pulled from them after they'd already signed contracts. So we're left on the hook with millions of dollars of things that they had to pay for without the grant assistance. There are multiple projects that we have been talking about and have been looking at that would not be possible for us to do without the OSLAD grant. So that's one of the main additional budget things, in addition to the things that everybody else has talked about that we're waiting to find out about. We hope that that'll be approved soon. But we are looking at air conditioning the rec center, the old soccer forum that's on Detroit Street. It sits empty about 5 months out of the year, 4.5 months out of the year. We're looking at air conditioning that so we can use it year round. Horseshoe Park, everybody knows the little awkward triangle of property on Jefferson Street, right? I think it's time to do something with that and turning it into something that could be useful. It's in such a great location right there in the center of town. And there's a lot of, to me, it feels like some of those neighborhoods around there are finally coming around and a lot of houses being rebuilt, improved, and there's families moving in. We're going to look at doing something with that park here this year into the near future to really maximize the use of that space. Oakwood Dog Park, we had a lady who actually donated a dog fountain, so we're going to be putting a new water fountain in out there. That's pretty exciting. And Oakwood Park renovations, I talked about with the storm. We have a lot of things we're going to be doing out there. I'm going to show you a quick video, and then I'm going to get out of here. This right here is a new piece of equipment that a lot of places want to get but have not gotten yet, and want to do but have not done. We're looking at doing this at Oakwood Park. And we're also looking at doing one at Idlewood Park. It's called an expression swing. And how do I click on that? Do you know how to click on that? It's not. Yeah. Anyway, it's for very, very quick video here. If the internet wants to comply. We're so close. All right, here you go. Oh, it's going to be like a slideshow on this. But this is a new type of a swing. It's called an expression swing. And when I saw it, and I saw some people using it at one of the conferences that we were up in Chicago, I thought, what a unique thing, what a cool thing. Somebody posted something on one of the Facebook groups here in town about this swing, and just the reaction as soon as somebody posted something was so cool. I said, we've got to get at least one of those. So we're going to actually be putting those in here pretty soon as well. Thank you again for letting me speak, and that's all I have for you. So.
Thank you, Joel. Well, just in closing, I would like to thank School District 709 for providing the facility for us to host our event here this morning. TCRC for providing the food and catering our meal. Morton High School student Elsa Hurst for sharing her musical talents with us this morning. Special thank you to Justin Farrell with Caldwell Banker Commercial Real Estate for sponsoring our breakfast. So if you're in the need of a commercial realtor, please call Justin. Special thanks to all of our presenters for the time that they put into their presentations today. Just a reminder, a week from this Friday is the Morton Chamber Golf Outing, May 6th, which will be out at Pine Lakes. So if you've not registered, we still have room for plenty of golfers. You can go online on the Chamber website and register for that. Proceeds from the golf outing will be going to the Project Pumpkin Endowment Fund, which is held at the Morton Community Foundation. And the Project Pumpkin is a fund that is made available to families in need so that they can experience the Pumpkin Festival. So for great cause. And I think that is about it. We just thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedules to be here with us this morning. So thanks for attending, and let's go forward and make it a great day. Thank you.